Hello. I hope you find this story interesting. Your feedback and subscriptions are always welcome. Now let's dive into the events that will completely change the life of one man. He never imagined that his peaceful life could turn into real chaos so quickly. Let's get started! If someone had told me that one small find could change my entire life, I would not have believed it. I thought I knew my wife. I thought I could see everything that was happening around me. But I didn't know the main thing, that for all these years she had been keeping something very important from me. What happened when I found those letters? And now you have to find out. That day I didn't think even my life would change. One day, I decided to make lunch and go to our old library, where Laura and I kept a lot of things that we never used but kept as memories. And I was digging through boxes, hoping to find old photos we took on our first vacation. And among the dust and old cardboard, I came across a small box lying deep in the corner. It looked ordinary, closed, a little worn from time to time, but something about it caught my attention. I opened it and immediately saw something I shouldn't have found at all. Letters. Ordinary handwritten letters. They were gathered in one bundle, tied together with a string. There was nothing special about them. However, what I found called into question everything I thought about my married life. I sat there holding the letters in my hands and could not believe my eyes. Laura had never mentioned these letters, and I had no idea why they would be so hidden from me. However, what I read changed my perception of our marriage. But all these letters were addressed to another man. His name was unknown to me. I started reading, and the more I learned, the more my doubts turned into overwhelming pain. Laura wrote to him not just as an old friend. These were passionate letters in which she revealed her feelings to him, talked about the love they had for each other, and about their meetings that I had never noticed. I could not even imagine what I learned in my worst nightmares. Something broke in my heart when I read those words. My wife, whom I loved and with whom we had built our whole life together, had another relationship. She was leading a double life, and probably all this happened without my knowledge. I didn't know how long she had been seeing this man. For how many years I just blindly believed that everything was fine, that our family was strong. I could not understand how this could happen so unnoticed by me. The fact that Laura was cheating on me didn't just hurt me. It made me question absolutely everything. Everything we had built together, all our moments of happiness that seemed so important, now seemed empty. They were not just words. They were emotions that Laura was trying to hide from me. I was in chaos. How to act in such a situation? How do you go on living when all your faith in your family, in your wife, is crumbling before your eyes? My main problem was not only that Laura had betrayed me, but also how I could move on. While reading these letters, I felt my inner balance gradually leaving me. Thousands of questions were running through my head. How could I not notice all this? How could I trust a person who had been lying to my face all this time? But the most interesting thing is that I didn't stop with the letters. It seemed like it was just the beginning of the journey I had to take. What awaited me next? How will Laura explain all this? Will there be an opportunity to forgive her, or is this the end of our story? And leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because things only get more complicated from here. Hello, dear friends. I'm glad you're with us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, be sure to do so, because there are still many emotional moments ahead. And, as you can imagine, the story will only get more intense. So don't miss a single minute. For a long time I could not understand what was happening to me. My thoughts kept returning to the letters I had found. In it was as if I was between two worlds. On the one hand, there was the illusion that everything was fine, and on the other hand, there was a reality that shocked me to the core. Laura turned out to be completely different than I knew her, and I realized that my whole life was built on a lie. How could I live with this anymore? After I read those letters, my idea of my wife and our family fell apart like a house of cards. I could not accept the fact that it was she, my Laura, with whom I had spent more than 20 years, who was betraying me. All these years seemed so perfect to me. I thought we were the perfect couple. But now everything looked different. Everything I knew about our family became something not real inside me. I looked at Laura and tried to see in her the person I loved so much, the one who had been my support for so many years. But it was an illusion. She was only a part of my fictional reality. I tried to explain to myself that maybe all these were just false emotions I was experiencing after the shock. But every letter, every word from that packet I found seemed to me to be more and more concrete proof that I had been deceived. And even worse, I didn't even realize how long it had been going on. I was ready to believe the worst. Then I started to think back to all those years when I thought everything was normal. I plunged into my memories to understand when exactly Laura changed her attitude towards me. And even if I wanted to find some explanation for this, it looked like a hopeless struggle against reality. The worst part was that these letters didn't just reveal her infidelity. They revealed a completely different side of my wife that I had never known. She was happy, not with me. And it seems that her whole life, to a certain point, was just a theater in which I played the role that the scriptwriters of her feelings suggested to me. And every time we spent time together, I now felt how easy it was to change this whole illusion. No matter how hard we tried to live by the usual rules, nothing was real. Nothing mattered. Looking at those letters, I realized that I didn't know what was real and what was just a game. I could no longer trust my own feelings. Everything looked like a loss of connection with reality. And I asked myself, was everything I thought was real just an illusion? And so I found myself at a crossroads. How to live with this truth? I decided to talk to Laura. It was not easy. I tried to figure out how to look calm when I knew she had kept all this from me. My emotions were so confused that I didn't even know how to start this conversation. And was I even ready to hear her explanation? I promised myself that I would, otherwise I would never find peace. But how can you be prepared for what you find out? How can you be prepared for the fact that you might lose everything? If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do so, because we are getting close to some important revelations. Are you ready? Then let's get started. Every day that I spent after that conversation with Laura seemed more and more unreal to me. I was living in a world where the truth was impossible to compress and organize. How could I live with the feeling that every moment with her was a lie? This feeling betrayed me because everything I wanted seemed to be an illusion. The night we talked, I couldn't sleep. I woke up and thought of every word Laura said, her reaction, her eyes when she said that nothing happened between her and him. But why did I hear this nuance in her voice? Why did those words seem like such a lie? I went back to the letters I found and read them over and over again. And each time it was even worse. No, not because I couldn't understand why she did it. Than to it was because I didn't understand why she had been deceiving me for so long, and why I hadn't noticed it before. Every day when I looked at Laura, it seemed to me that she was a stranger. I could no longer see the love in her eyes that I had built in my head over the years. I couldn't understand where the line was between our story that we created together and what she was really hiding. A lot of I felt like every day was squeezing me more and more, as if I was on the verge of choosing, but I felt our relationship crumbling, even if we hadn't said the last word yet. Perhaps for her, everything was already decided. For me, it was the beginning of the end. I started thinking of our relationship as something in the past. It seemed that now I was just waiting for the moment when it would be easier for both of us to go in different directions. But then a new challenge appeared, and it came in the form of another person. A person with whom Laura seemed to start spending more and more time. Was it the same man from the letters? Or was it just another lie? My heart beat faster when I found out that he had been in our lives for a long time, and that their relationship had developed much faster than I could have imagined. My distrust of Laura deepened even more, and I didn't know if I was ready to learn the whole truth. This was the moment when I started looking for answers. It didn't matter how I would feel if the truth hurt. The main thing was that I could finally understand where the line between my truth and her truth really was. That moment came, and I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to talk to Laura, to ask her a direct question on what's really going on between you two. I didn't expect the answer to be easy. And what is easy when you find out that your life has been given a completely different meaning? But I wanted to hear her explain. Every day I put off this moment, every time I put it off until tomorrow, afraid that everything was about to fall apart. But the longer I waited, the more everything gained strength. I felt as if I was trapped in my thoughts and emotions, which were breaking free. I simply could not leave it unanswered. Time does not heal wounds. It only allows them to heal under its own pressure, like the earth under a heavy stone. And I didn't know what could be worse than what happened after I found her letters. But I was still looking for answers, and they came at the most unexpected moment. Every time I tried to approach Laura, my fingers trembled. Not from cold, but from fear. Fear that I would feel lost now. Fear that no answer would give me comfort. It all started to turn into a kind of catastrophe, and I realized that I could no longer be the person I used to be. We were moving towards each other, but every step we took was closer to a breakup. And then, one day, when I thought I couldn't keep silent any longer, I learned about another loss. It seemed like it shouldn't have been such a big blow. But my heart just broke when I found out that Laura had not only cheated on me with that man, but also hid a lot of money from me. Yes, this money that she borrowed for her own purposes. She had a business, a secret account, and she kept it all from me. All these years I had been living in a world. I realized that everything we had built, everything I thought belonged to us, was just an illusion. Nothing was real. It was not just a disappointment, but a crack that split our whole life. I looked at Laura, and she was as alien as the man in the letters. All these years she had been deceiving not only me, but also herself. What we had was distorted. The money we spent on our life together now seemed to be just a symbol of our decline. Instead of being joyful and important, it all became just a reminder of how much I had lost by not knowing the truth. And how do I live with all these losses now? How can I move forward when I realize that I can't even trust anyone? Perhaps I should have realized all this earlier, but, as usual, it all became clear only after I stopped being blind to the obvious. Now I was on the verge. My consciousness could not accept what was happening, but I felt betrayed not only as a husband, but also as a person who had gone through this journey with her. I wanted to find my own answer to what had happened. If I could somehow turn back the clock, If I had known that this illusion I was carrying was so fragile. We still lived under the same roof, but even our simplest conversations no longer made sense. And all my questions remained unanswered, and I was beginning to realize that I might never be able to get that answer. Was I ready to leave it all behind and move on, if there was even a small part of our future together? How do you live after your reality has collapsed? When all memories turn into a deception, and the person you love turns out to be someone else. I didn't know. But what I learned next made me reconsider my whole life. I know life had turned into chaos. I no longer understood who I was, where I belonged, and what I should do next. My mind was spinning if I had known before. Why didn't I notice? What else was a lie? I started looking. In old documents, bank statements, even in Laura's phone while she was sleeping. It wasn't like me. I've never been suspicious or jealous. But after everything I learned, my trust just disappeared. And then I found something else. If you think this story has already reached its peak, you are wrong. I found a notebook. A regular old notebook with yellowed pages. It had shopping lists, some phone numbers, names, dates. And between them, there were phrases that made me feel cold. After he leaves, transfer some more to that account. If he finds out, tell him it's a loan for a friend. He can't know about Jack. It was him. The man in the letters. But the dates, they started almost from the very beginning of our marriage. My whole life, she lied to me my whole life. I was sitting on the couch, holding this notebook, and this man, Jack. She froze for a second, and then she smiled. I thought you'd never find out. How do you react when someone says that to you? When the person you've lived with all your life says it, as if it were something trivial. I asked her directly, who is he? The person who gave me what you could never give me. And what was that? And life. It was painful to hear. She admitted that she knew Jack before we got married, that their relationship had never stopped, that she chose me because I was reliable, stable. But Jack gave her emotions, risk, passion. You were a wonderful husband, she said, but not for me. Is that how it works? I'm just a reliable option for her, and my real life was somewhere in the shadows. I left the house. I just left because I didn't know what else to do. The cold air refreshed my head, but did not give me any answers. Did I want revenge? Yes. Did I want to forgive? I don't know. Did I want to know what would happen next? You will. Have you ever had to choose between leaving and burning all bridges or staying and trying to understand? I stood at that crossroads. I didn't go home that night. I just walked the streets thinking, analyzing. I kept hearing her voice in my head. You were a wonderful husband. But not for me, Abba. It wasn't about money, comfort, or any other banal reasons. She just didn't love me the way I loved her. And now what? Divorce. Or forgiveness. The next day I went home. She was sitting in the kitchen, drinking coffee. She looked at me as if nothing had happened. You're back. Or we need to talk. Or if you want a divorce, I agree. If you want to listen to me, I don't mind either. I sat down across from her. Do you want me to understand you? I want you to understand. Me and yourself. It was not the tone I expected. Not an excuse, not an attempt to shift the blame. For the first time, she spoke honestly. But was I ready to hear the truth? She told me the story of her life, not the one I knew, but the one that was hidden. She told me that since childhood she had been afraid of instability because her father left the family without money. She was always looking for security. Then how I thought I was the perfect option, and then I realized that security is not everything. I didn't want to hurt you, she said, but I was afraid of losing what we had. And what did we had? We had a good life. I laughed, bitterly. A good life. So I was her insurance. And what was she to me? I could have left. I could have taken the documents, filed for divorce, never seen her again. I could have done worse, told her children, friends, made her life unbearable. But I did something else. I stayed one more night. Not because but I know I can't live like this anymore. She nodded slowly. That's fair, and that was it. No more tears, no more scenes, no more begging. She accepted my choice, and I accepted her. Just the way she is, I rented an apartment. It was small, but it was mine. For the first time in many years, I felt free. No compromises, no expectations, no illusions. It was scary at first, very scared, and then it became interesting. Because when you have nothing left, the whole world opens up to you. I didn't know. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and catch myself thinking, what if I was wrong? But every morning, when I went to a new cafe, met new people, tried something I had never done before, I realized that this is life. One day I received a letter from her, a short one without any extra words. Thank you. And I'm sorry. Hey, I read it and didn't know what to feel. Is it possible to forgive completely? Is it possible to forget? I started from scratch. No anger, no regrets. Because you know what? Life is short. And if you don't live it truly, what's the point? Could you start from scratch? If this story made you think, subscribe. There will be more to come.